And I really came on godly. You know, I put on a dark blue suit, and I took taxi cabs all over New York, and I tipped big, because he would have. And I got into a fight with a guy, and I forgave him. I did some guy hit my fender, and I said unto him, mine is the only horse in the race.
For the stand-up comic, performing on the main stage of a Las Vegas hotel is perhaps the high point of his career. Woody Allen's talent to make people laugh is being tested before the most demanding audience in the country, and in return he's paid more for it than anywhere else.
I like girls. That's a sickness with me. Last night I dropped the key to my hotel room into a girl's pocketbook. And I went back to my room 20 minutes later, and my typewriter was missing.
The road to Las Vegas is a long one for most funny men, usually beginning or ending in a dwindling number of small nightclubs across the land.
The first atom bomb, reverse it.
Yeah, stay here. Come on. Rat snigger. Thank you very much.
That young comic's name is Ken Greenwald, and he's to be wished well on his way to the top. My name is George Plimpton, and recently I looked into the wild world of comedy and comedians. As a journalist, I often produce my best stories by actively participating. For football, I tried a bit of quarterbacking with the Detroit Lions, motion pictures by playing a heavy against Duke Wayne, and the circus by attempting a trick on the flying trapeze. After that terror under the big top, I thought I might relax in the less strenuous profession of joke-telling, even do a stint in Las Vegas to really get a feeling of it. Well, I did, and I got much more than I bargained for. How to describe it? Well, did you ever hear the one about the turkey that...
Plimpton, did you hear the one about, is brought to you by
Southern California. It was here that I was trained to do a brief stand-up comic routine in a Las Vegas hotel. Just one performance, but I had only a month to prepare the act, whatever it might be. Los Angeles is home for almost all the comedians we laugh at today. The entertainment industry is here, of course, but then perhaps there is something about the nature of the place. Its love of the absurd and the bizarre, its lack of inhibition, that makes it an obvious stomping ground for comedians. Perhaps in this stimulating atmosphere, it would be easier for me to learn something about the art of being funny. Of course, I certainly needed someone to supervise my training program. George Plimpton to see Mr. Allen.
Oh, pardon me, George. I seem to have come up with a terrible cold this morning. And I locked myself out of the house, and I'm in a terrible mood, but make me laugh anyway.
I used to know a sort of a Polish joke, but it skipped my mind.
Well, then you're in worse trouble than I thought.
Nevertheless, Steve Allen, who is a noted historian of comedy as well as a star comedian, was intrigued by the prospect of taking on a total novice, and he agreed to try to get me ready for Las Vegas. While he was fairly optimistic about my chances, there were some rather ominous overtones.
There is no comedian who has ever lived who hasn't bombed, failed, at one time or another. It's happened to all of them, the great and the others as well. So if it should happen to you when the final moment comes, you'll be in very distinguished company.
I'll tell you how good she is. Maria Callas just sang Carmen in Mexico City, and when she was done, 5,000 people stood up and cheered and gave her the ears and tail of the tenor. My first joke, not my own, of course. I'd been told that though I'm a writer, I couldn't really work up my own routine. It's a specialized art. And so the next day, Steve had got a hold of the two head writers of Laugh-In. They agreed to help, at no small risk to their reputations. Mark London, himself a former stand-up comic, and David Panish, his partner. They tried out this test joke on me to see what they had to work with.
I'm just going to make a comment on your delivery, which I hope was Caesarean. I think if you can contrive somehow to speak pretty much as you do, but basically keeping your own personality rather than trying to sound like a nightclub comedian and kind of projecting like that, it'll be easier for you and you'll actually communicate better to the audience, I think.
A homespun type comic. Yeah.
Could you stand up for a minute? Would that be
Sure, I can do that.
I got a mic in the corner.
Let's see if you're more comfortable touching it or not. Yeah. The mic comes off.
Which is more than you may do. You may not come off at all.
My favorite opera star is Maria Callas, and I'll tell you how good she is. She sang in Mexico City the other night, and
No, it's funny. It's good. Go on. It's very good. It's very natural. Yeah, it's fine.
5,000 people got up and cheered to the echo, and they awarded her the ears and tail of the tenor.
That's great.
Good. That's very good. It is better that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You use the Gary Cooper-like stance. That's good.
I do have one
that's
last favor I would like to ask you, though, George. Please don't tell that joke again.
While my writers worked on the act, I set out, armed with my one opera joke, to pick up some tips on technique and matters related to being funny. My first interview was with Miss Phyllis Diller.
I had a line once that simply wasn't working, and I knew it was funny. The line was this: the year I lost my baby fat, I got middle-aged spread. Now, I added one word, which gave it a rhythm. The year I finally lost my baby fat, I got middle-aged spread. Isn't it amazing? I have another theory. When I write my own material, I frequently have what they call topper, 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 bang. In other words, you set a joke up, and then you have 3 words, 1 word, 2 words, that each get a laugh. And then when they think they've had the whole shot, you lay a really heavy ending on them. That's the greatest joy in the world.
Maria Callas is my favorite opera star.
Yes?
She's so good that when she was singing in Mexico City, 5,000 people got up, and they awarded her the ears and tail of the tenor. It works?
It's heaven, and it's dirty.
Rather pleased, I took the joke off to Phil Silvers.
That's wrong to start with. Get your attention from the audience. You know, I relax by enjoying the opera. Sell it so we command your attention.
I relax by going...
Now you're shouting, Joe.
Oh,
Don't shout. Don't be antagonistic. See, it's in your face. There's no repose there. Check.
I relax by...
No, take a breath. Take a breath before you talk. You know, so try it again.
I relax by...
You didn't take a breath. Take a breath, George, and don't be nasal. And don't speak from the head. You see? Open your mouth real wide when you're going to say it. Now say, I relax by... No, you say it wide. Say it. I relax. See, that's your problem. No diction.
Well, if you're not a joke teller, let me give you a little advice.
Fortunately, I found Buddy Hackett's advice on the delivery of a joke a bit more practical.
Say you were typing. You're a writer, eh? If you're typing, you don't put everything one right under the other, eh? Double space and all capitals. Okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of dots in between. Take your time.
Yeah.
Don't say, there was a man. There was a man. Imagery projected. You see the man. If you see the man, if you say there was a man, they discredit that.
Yeah.
Now they're waiting for something important. Every word on that stage is important. Some of us can get away with a little throwaway word. But I know it's important, but I can do it to a degree. But you can't experiment that way. There was this man, and he had a tremendous nose.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? I didn't say no joke. Okay, but you see a man with a tremendous nose, right?
Do.
And he only had one nostril. Now, I'm seeing this as I'm telling it to you.
Yeah.
But he was lucky. Of course, you want to have some stuff prepared and some stuff written.
Sure.
But then within that, you want to learn that, but you don't want to be tightened just down to that. You want to let your personality be you.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a robot come out and be able to do you. You got to have a part of you. And if you're a little scared, it's natural you'll be a little scared. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's be beautiful for you to be scared of it.
Well, I'll tell you what I lack is nerves were on my mind, and on this subject I thought Bob Hope might have the best advice. You're the paragon of self-confidence on the stage.
Well, I think that that's sort of a pose in a way, and also I think experience and
more exposure to audiences will help you. For instance, in Chicago, I played some audiences in the old days where if they liked you, they didn't applaud, they just let you live. So after you do that, very little scares you, you know?
Well, I haven't had those 40 years. What would you do if you only had 3 weeks' experience?
Well, you got to talk to people, and that's what you're doing, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah. The timing of a joke is obviously very important. Now, does that come through taking it apart, or through endless practice, or through the 40
I don't think
years?
there's any way that you can acquire timing. I actually think that it's a gift, a part. I think you're gifted. A lot of people are gifted with timing. I mean, you've seen Benny work.
Yeah? He can say one word, well, or...
Oh, Jack, yeah, well, he milks the joke. You know, Jack is famous. He not only milks it, he gets chicken fat out of it. And then you have Burl, who works very fast. And Burl works so fast, he gets lost himself once in a while. He hardly knows whose jokes he's telling, his or mine. But he's beautiful, and he's one of the finest comedians I've ever seen, Burl. And I've known him ever since he was the thief of bad gags.
We talked not only about the timing of jokes, but the importance of their sequence in a routine.
Just that one line set me off, you know.
That first joke, then, is really terrible.
Oh, I should say so. And they know what the quality of your act is going to be, too, if you establish it that way.
So it's a good notion, perhaps, to put one's really strong joke at the beginning and catch them right
I do believe so, especially if you're new.
Yeah.
You consider staying in the business very long?
Well, I'm going to try my first joke, and if they laugh, well, then we'll see.
If they laugh, you may not be a friend anymore, you know.
With only 3 weeks to go before the Las Vegas performance, the writers had come up with a first draft of my routine, and we met at my office with Steve for a run-through. We would have a number of these meetings to edit and refine the 15-minute monologue before I dared take it out onto the great stage of Caesar's Palace.
That was no mistake.
Oh, I see.
Like, we know what we're doing.
You got to read it as if, albeit you wouldn't read it that way.
Dear George, that was no mistake.
Right.
That was my father.
And we'll run the thing together. It says, Dear George, stop, sign Caesar's Palace.
George.
Then discover what it is.
One thought here. If now we could try it with you standing up instead of just sitting there, could we hear the joke on your feet
Okay.
as though you're actually delivering?
Take Howard Hughes. With all that man has on his mind, when he found out I was appearing here tonight, you know what that man did? He went out and made every effort to sell this hotel. And he doesn't even own it. Now, that's class.
I just remembered an old joke which might work very well for you. I know you folks must be very nervous right now because many of you are making your first appearance before me. And then you would say, but I don't want you to worry. After all I've been through, I'm not prone. That's better. I'm not prone to audience fright. So no matter how frightened this audience gets. How are you?
You got to read the line beforehand because you won't have any feel for it.
Working late into the night, we'd gotten me on the stage all right and through most of the routine, but we couldn't seem to find a sacco finale. And as happens, we were all getting a little punchy.
He can say all the things, too, the cliches. Between, good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah.
You can go through a series
And as a
of
great man once said, you take a cigar. You know, a cigar in one hand, a flag in the other. Then you smoke the flag.
A great man once said, I think it was me.
Yeah.
Then just do it.
And I really want to tell you, folks, you can do all those.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
I prefer the sudden blackout myself.
I think it'll happen automatically.
But the most concerned was Phyllis Diller. She was worried about whether I'm really funny. I told her not to worry because I take to comedy like a duck takes to water. And she said, I know, but have you seen the water lately? Oh, my. And take Howard Hughes, with all that man has on his mind. When he found out I was appearing... Listening to tapes was helping me memorize the material, which frankly I wasn't comfortable with. The jokes seemed forced and out of character. Of course, I'd said them so many times that they'd lost all their comic properties, at least for me. Kaz, could I try one of my jokes on you, a circus joke? So I tried one of them on a girl in the office, my first public delivery. Wait a minute, let me start over again. I've forgotten it. Oh, there it is. In the circus, I had to fly from one trapeze to another. The most difficult thing I had to do was to learn how to fall properly into the net. And I want to tell you, I fell about 600 times on the way to the ladder. You think that's going to work?
I'm sure it will on the audience.
I'm beginning to wonder. But how about you? Did you like it?
No.
Okay. That did it. I was shaky enough about the material, so I went directly to the writers to voice my anxiety.
And I know you feel the act does not reflect what George Plimpton is, but since we only have a short period of time the way you're doing it, we don't know what George Plimpton is. We know what Jack Benny is. We know at least what the public sees of Jack Benny.
But that evolution took some generations to develop.
So we have to kind of give you a material which we feel would go under general circumstances.
Do comics often complain you haven't captured their style?
Oh, sure. There's a great story about Milton Berle. He was complaining about, to some writer, I don't remember who it was, that he had failed to capture his style, and he told Milton that if he could capture it, he'd put it in a cage and club it to death.
So it was a question of accepting the material, gaining confidence with it, and pretending at least that it was going to work. There was, after all, that old saying that it isn't how funny the joke is, but how funny you tell it. Words of encouragement from old friends about tonight's performance. I got a telegram from John Wayne. He says in his telegram, wish you the same success in your comedy routine as you had in our Western. Well, that's nice of him. Hey, wait a minute, didn't I die in that Western? I have a chance in this. I thought I could spice up the Wayne jokes by trying an imitation. I found David Fry on a movie set. Can you help me with that one?
Try. Well, let me see if I can help you with the Wayne. Find a little hat. This, I think, hat would suit John Wayne. He's kind of bent over like this. So he's bending over like he's pulling a wagon train, and there's a hill down there, and he's got to reach it because Maureen O'Hara is on top of the hill. And he's got his always putting his arm out like he's throwing away some liberal, see? And he starts off like this, a little more pigeon-toed. He's kind of getting ready like that, like a locomotive. And it's kind of like this, see? Oh, come on, kid. Well, you can get right over here on the right of me, see?
I've got it. Let me get my hat.
Right, without that hat, you can't do it.
All right.
All right.
Kid, come on over and stand over here to the right of me.
Well, that's very good. Nixon, I keep working on that one. I am the president, make no mistake about that. Rocky is easy to do because his face is over to one side. And I want to say that my wife happy,
that my wife
and our
happy,
future children.
And the future children.
Don't be sneezy and grumpy.
Don't be sneezy.
That's fine, that's fine. I would say of all the impressions, that Buckley would probably be the best one from a physical point of view. Would you want to try one?
I'll try. Well, how do I even begin?
Well, if you'll just, you lean back like this and because the eyes, raise your eyebrows, tongue out like that. Take the pencil from me, right? Eyebrows up, tongue out, going back and forth like that, right. My brother, Jim Buckley, I'm ready.
My brother, Jim Buckley, yeah.
Right, just go back like that. Head back, almost like you're falling, but easy, don't fall over.
I do a lion.
Jonathan Winter's impressions are of quite a different nature. It was most unlikely that his genius would rub off on me. He just isn't a joke teller. His comedy springs forth in little
Ralph,
skits that
Gene,
seem to click on when he's inspired.
Mom, would you hold the baby up? I want to get a picture here with the bears and everything. Huh? Here, now, wait a minute. You kids get over there because there's some bears over in that area, too. We want to get all the bears. Well, what's the matter, sweetheart? Don't put the baby in the grotto. No, I don't want the baby near the bear. Oh, the bear took the baby. Oh, give the baby back, bear. Not the baby bear. Give our baby back. What's taking the baby? Well, we have a big family. It's, I guess, the baby seems to be having fun with the bear. Maybe that is kind of a good shot after all. Here we are.
What would you say was the common denominator, so to speak, of the comedian?
For the most part, all comedians have come from rather sad, gray backgrounds. Most comedians have grown up and lived with poverty. And most of them, many of them are from broken homes. Myself, I came from a broken home. My family, they were divorced when I was 7.
I quit the road about 10 years ago. The chief reason being that I couldn't take my family with them. I couldn't take little kids out of school and travel. And it's a lonely life. It got to be too lonely for me. But you may have a pretty good time. You can imagine when it's all over, you know, the people out there milling around. Who was that? George Plimpton. Did you see who was he, Margaret? Who was he?
I don't know who he was. He seemed nice. He was tall, wasn't he? And rather attractive.
You suppose he's married? Wonder what the story is. I've never seen him. There'll be people that'll say things like that, but I wanted to give you just one little kind of tiny piece of advice which I think might very well work for you, be kind of fun. And that is, when you come out, that's most important. Don't run out. Don't run out. Don't walk out. This is just me. But I think if you just put your head right around the curtain, pull it back a little bit and say, "Hi, I'm George Plimpton. Hi, we're going to have some fun." And then let the curtain go, and then kind of edge your way out. That'd be kind of fun, George. Be surprised. It'll either be an awful lot of fun, or you'll bomb.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our show. I'd like to sing because, after all, that's what I'm famous for.
Once a week in a Los Angeles nightclub called the Bitter End West, they have a talent night. The entertainers who range from young professionals like David Bevins to rank amateurs like myself, who are given the chance to get on a stage to introduce new material.
Let me tell you, I gambled for laughs. Laughed my car away last night.
I was booked onto the program to try out part of my act. Talent night audiences are supposed to be sympathetic and tolerant. At least that's what my team told me. And before I went on, their advice was to take it easy and relax.
When it was over for sure.
I am very careful with my introduction, and I'd like to introduce a young man from New York who really thinks he's funny. So let's give him a break. George Plimpton.
I don't blame you for being nervous because this is your first appearance before me. I've got these telegrams. They keep pouring in. Got them right here. Here's one that poured in. Here it is. Dear George, stop. Signed, The Bitter End. There must be some mistake there. Here's the last. Dear George, that was no mistake. Signed, The Bitter End. I went to Phyllis Diller, and she was very disturbed about my ability to make people laugh. I told her not to worry, that I thought I could take to comedy like a duck takes to water. And she said, yes, but have you seen the water lately? Still, I boxed 3 rounds against Archie Moore, who was the light heavyweight champion of the world. In the first round of our fight, he kept belting me with lefts to the head and rights to the body. And by the second round, I had the situation reversed. He was hitting lefts to the body and rights to the head. And from the Diller and boxing jokes, it was absolutely straight downhill. Drops him from view.
George Plimpton.
But it was a tolerant audience, though, ironically, I got my biggest laugh when I accidentally bumped my head. Found I was getting near the end, I'll tell you.
It is a nice feeling.
You could see the shore coming up, and you're just coming towards it.
Also, don't look down.
But if you're like that, they don't see you have an infectious smile, and we didn't see it.
The next joke about lefts to the body and rights to the head, right? And then the second time you reverse it, rights to the head, left to the body. It requires a little bit of memory.
It requires it for me, I want to tell you.
Yeah, you should do it physically then.
Perhaps.
If you try, you do it that way, it might.
Or repeat it. Left to the body, right to the head, left to the body, right to the head, and then go for the punch.
But it also may come out of the fact that they weren't in order. As we have it built originally with similar types of jokes going along, you skipped. What did that fellow, somebody...
Oh, yeah, someone outside said, he said, the material's not bad. And he said, but you sound a little bit like Cordell Hull. What about the Diller joke? Disaster.
Hey, that reminds me, I'm not usually rude to the drunks out on the street, but today I passed 2 of them and heard one of them say, look, Harry, Sony is now making people.
My act had been so frustrating, and that same night to see Dick Cavett work with such ease for that warm response, well, it hit home how uncertain the art of comedy was, and how elusive.
They showed Mayor Lindsay celebrating his birthday the other day. He shut his eyes, made a wish, and blew out the candles. But when he opened his eyes, he was still mayor.
George, how's it going so far?
I described my experiences at the bitter end to Jonathan Winters. I told him there had been waves of sympathy, but not much laughter.
A professional comedian, it would be difficult to get up. I remember a guy that I knew, was an acquaintance of mine. I worked in a factory one time years ago, and he was a guy who was terribly shy, and at one stage in his little short career, he got up and did a miniature funny. And the plant foreman asked him to come to that party that night. He thought it was so funny, and poor devil, I mean, he got him up and he said, here's Elwood Suggins, get up and do that little funny you did. Remember, I forget what you did, a little story about the mouse and the kitty. You want to do that? Get up here. We've got a lot of people sitting around.
Well, I feel funny. I mean, but I don't really remember it too well. It was,
Oh, come on, stop fumbling. There's a little mouse and the kitty, remember? And you pulled the kitty's ear and the mouse, what?
Well, it was a thing, I don't really remember it too well. It was just a thing with a kitty and a little mouse ran across the room, and gosh, I don't really know.
Sit down, you've made a fool of yourself.
Well, that's about the way I felt about my audience, that they were saying, sit down.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Certainly I had no intention of following in those sad footsteps of Jonathan's Elwood Suggins. So with time running out, I kept at it, bolstering my confidence, working on my projection, sort of a modern-day Demosthenes playing to the Pacific.
How frightened you get, I'm not going to get prone. You know, I've gotten, hey, hold still there, fella. I want you to know that I've received warm words of encouragement from, hey, come on back here. Warm words of encouragement from Howard Hughes. Now, there's a man with a lot on his mind. In fact, when he heard I was going to appear down here at Caesar's Palace, he went out and did his utmost to try to sell the hotel. Didn't like that one, eh? Going out to have your picnic lunch, I see.
Traditionally, headliners get outfitted at Cy DeVore's in Hollywood. At least I'd come on fit to kill, or perhaps in my case, fit for the kill. I begin to collapse there. I have a feeling my act is about the same condition as this.
Oh, well, wait a minute. You'll never get over the laughs from this material. Well, this is a drawer. Somewhere in town, there's a Volkswagen with the seat covers missing. Yeah, that's nice. Very attractive, though. It really is attractive.
Good.
You sure you didn't get the swatch from Truman Capote? Nice. Or show him the lining. It's a Rorschach.
Jack Carter is a true stand-up comic, exuberant and irrepressible, so individual that there seemed nothing I could learn from his fierce flow of verbal and sight gags.
Your own dying as you
But he was certainly able to tell me about the symptoms of failure and what is called flop sweat.
Flop sweat, no one in the world experiences but a performer. It's that walking out there and suddenly you're working and you're going along and you know in your heart it's over. There is no way, and it starts to pour from here, and it drenches down the arms a lot, and the legs get wet, and all of a sudden you're swimming in your shoes. But there's a great guilt comedians have. Where's the bridge building? Where's the vaccine you discovered? Where's the great scientific event? So you feel guilty. What are you doing for a living? I tell jokes. I make laughs. So I would always, so therefore it can be very demeaning if you don't go over, because it's a rejection of you. It's not a singer singing Berlin songs or Newley songs, and he goes, oh, well, the heck with them. They didn't like their songs. But I was gorgeous, you know. When you're employing your own tricks, your own humor, you're rejected as your own entity, you know. It's like, you stink, get out of here, you know. So it's a terrible death, you know.
Tom, I've got another joke for you.
All right.
Tattooed lady joke. She's got a devil tattooed on one knee. She's got the San Francisco fire tattooed on the other. And when she crosses her legs, it looks like hell.
Okay.
You think it'll work?
I think so.
How would you grade it? How would you grade it? A to E.
Ain't it E? I'd give it a D.
Tell me, how fat was she?
Fat.
Ah, that's fat. That's fat. This is not fat. This is a half a lady with one arm.
Right.
Okay. I was in the circus, and there were zebras were there, and there was a horse, and the zebra and the horse, they thought they were going to have a little love affair, and the horse said, take off your pajamas. Oh, there was a fat lady there. She was watching them. She liked zebra. You should have seen her. She had her knees tattooed. On one knee, she had a Chicago fire. Oh, the whole building is going. Oh! The other was a picture of the devil. And when she crossed the leg, it looked like hell. Got it now? Now you got this whole thing. It doesn't look like you're setting it that strong.
Can you give me a sense of what it's going to be like when I walk out there on that big stage?
What it's going to be like? I can remember the RKO Flushing. I was getting $12.50 for the night. Mostly, I wanted the people to like me. I didn't want them to like me. I was wearing brown suede shoes and a flowered tie. I walked out. They laughed. And they threw me. I couldn't remember what I was going to say first. I was doing a routine about taking pills to lose weight. Remember that? And I just wanted them to like me, and I wanted to get another job someday. But what it's going to be like is you're going to be apprehensive, you know, like, I hope they like me. So if they like you, they can laugh. Yeah. If they don't like you, it could be the funniest bum in the world. They can't laugh, so you're going to want them to like you. Well, I wanted to, look how I'm even holding myself. I wanted to be loved. I guess that's those. I want to, hey, love me, you know, like, I don't want to hurt anybody. I just want to come out and do it.
I faded back to pass, and I was hit by every single opposing lineman. There hasn't been such a tangle of bodies on the screen since Ted and Alice and Bob and Carol.
I don't get it.
There's a film called Bob, and maybe I've got the name wrong.
I remember the picture on the screen, but I didn't see it.
No, I actually played professional football with the Detroit Lions. And I'm not going to kid you. The first time I got the ball, I was petrified.
Was I petrified?
Was I petrified?
And then laying it.
I took the joke to the comedian Bob Hope called the thief of bad gags. Milton Berle will do anything for a laugh, his colleagues say about him, begrudgingly, knowing that he can make an audience laugh whether they want to or not.
You've got to make it sound like it's newly born and fresh every time you say the line, even if you've done it for 10 years. If you want another football joke, I heard a very funny, now please believe me, this football joke is not mine. Because if it was Foot Burl, it would be, isn't that awful, Foot Burl? See, that's,
oh, yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah. See, the story about the fella that was, you ready to write?
I'm all set to write.
About the fellow that was told to hijack a jet, and he came back with Joe Namath.
I like it.
You like it? You can use it.
I can throw that in, it's a short.
Oh, you can throw it out. You know how long it takes an audience to laugh at a joke, the actual timing? 4 seconds.
That's all.
That's a big laugh. Now, I hope you get one for 4 seconds, which I'm sure you will.
You find that people expect you to be funny all the time? I mean, sort of sitting in restaurants and so forth?
Well, George, they expect me to be funny, but as you get a little older, like I'm 43 now, what's funny about I'm 43? I don't do that stuff anymore. You mean stuff like this? Shtick? Is that what you mean? Or grabbing a glass like that? Well, I don't do that stuff. Or taking a cigar and putting my glasses like that. Now, I actually don't do that anymore.
Steve, are they different than other... Before leaving for Las Vegas, I had a final session with Steve Allen. He had once written that there are no absolute truths in comedy. I was finding out how right he was, but still, we could always work on the particulars.
You say it, for example. I'm terribly sorry to have to tell you this, but several years ago, he was clawed to death by Frank Buck. Yeah. He was also attacked by an airplane. I hope it's one of ours. That's a standard Las Vegas ad lib. If an airplane should by any chance happen to pass over Caesar's Palace when you're on the stage, you look up and you just say, I hope it's one of ours. I don't know whose joke that is, but comedians have been doing it ever since World War I, possibly. I don't know.
If it really works, perhaps I ought to be sure that there is one going on.
You could hire one to strafe the building.
So I have this tiny little airline joke. It's about a guy who was asked to hijack a jet, and he came back with Joe Namath. That's all there is to it.
That is the worst joke I've ever heard. Who's Joe Namath?
Ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. We will be landing in Las Vegas in approximately 5 minutes.
This is Las Vegas, the city of opportunity. I don't suppose anyone lands here who doesn't think he's going to bring something out. In my own case, a laugh, a really big laugh. I think that would be just fine. I arrived early, Steve and the writers coming later, and I was greeted by surely skeptical officials from Caesar's Palace.
Now, if you do well, I told you, if you do well, you're booked again.
On the way down the strip, they told me my monologue would conclude that night's dinner show, and that the audience, about 1,200 people, would be warmed up for me, they were kind enough to put it that way, by Paul Anka and the Fifth Dimension. They did warn me that the room, it's called the Circus Maximus, is of such giant proportions that they much prefer singers in there, and musical groups, rather than we stand-up comics. Holy smoke, look at this.
That's the Stars dressing room.
Stars dressing room. Look at those.
Sorry,
balloons.
I can't put you in here, George.
Oh, this is not for me.
That's not for you. But we've made some arrangements for you by putting your name up.
Oh, my, look at that. There it is. No star, I notice.
You do have a dressing room. It's not very opulent, George.
Well,
but I think it'll serve the purpose.
It'll do for me. I was taken backstage, still clutching the side-of-ore tuxedo, that security blanket. So far, really my only credential as a comic. Boy, look at that. The scale of the place is enough to humble anyone. But like a moth to light, I was drawn out to where I'd be standing that evening. It's not what you call your intimate room, is it?
Very, very good room.
I have the terrible sense that this is exactly what it's going to look like in the middle of my act.
Tonight, every seat is going to be occupied.
Oh, there you are. Oh, here it is.
Now, if you want a little road, go right ahead.
Howard Hughes. There's a man with a lot on his mind. When he heard I was going to be performing here on the stage of Caesar's Palace, he went out and tried to sell this hotel. And he doesn't even own it.
George, I think you need something more sophisticated than that for Caesar's Palace.
Howard Hughes jokes don't go down and...
Not in this room. They've already heard them all.
Uh-oh. Well, I better call in my writer. He said Hughes jokes just don't go over. The audiences are jaded.
The busboys are jaded, the waiters, the captains are very jaded, and the pit bosses. The customers are all right.
So you think I can lead off with a Howard Hughes joke?
No problem.
No,
But I still pushed for a safer Las Vegas opening topic than Howard Hughes. Perhaps a pit boss joke.
Pit bosses, for an example.
One of them got kicked in the heart the other night, and it resulted in an immediate coronary to the kicker's foot.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Yeah.
I like that. Maybe we can put that up at the beginning, just in case the Hughes joke doesn't go.
There's no just in case of...
I like when you say we, George, because we ain't going to be there.
Still worried, I sought solace from a fellow writer turned comic who was checking out a library book on Soviet physics.
Yes, I think I'm going to read this because I'm going nuts here in Las Vegas, and I'm trying to read everything in the library to keep from going crazy.
I knew there wasn't much that Woody Allen could tell me that would help with so little time to go. But I did think, when I told him of my insecurity, that he could have been a bit more encouraging. You're saying that if Mort Saul gave me his best jokes and I tried them, they'd fall flat. I'd only get halfway, really, with them.
Yes, I think that it's all in the comedian. It has nothing to do with the jokes. My jokes and Hope's jokes or whoever you can think of, it gets stolen all the time. But they can't steal the thing about you that makes you funny, which you yourself have no control over. I mean, you're either born, you just are born that way or not, and that's it. And you can't direct it anyway. You just get out on stage and you do what you do because there's something inside you that demands expression, and you pray that they like it.
The desert night comes down awfully quickly, and those names click on. Show business people whose whole careers have been pointed to getting up there. The Las Vegas headliners. And then, of course, the hopefuls.
Does that tie look right?
Yeah.
It might be upside down.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
all right.
upside
Stand on your
down.
head.
It looks, that's perfect.
That's
No,
perfect.
It is
Him up a
upside
bit.
down.
I'll try it.
George, we have a
Get to it
feeling
now.
that the thing about the coronary and the foot, let's skip that joke, shall we?
Oh, no, really? I've got plenty of time. I mean, I really can learn.
No, you haven't, George. You got very little time. You called the governor, and he said, he said your execution is going to take place on schedule. You have no more time, George.
You're really serious about leaving out the,
Perhaps on another occasion when...
Another occasion?
Another occasion. This is it.
How many chances do you think I'm going to have?
He's not going anywhere after
George,
this.
it wasn't too bad about the tie being upside down, but your pants are upside down, George.
What it is.
So they are.
Hey, George, you're good luck.
Oh,
You're going to be great, really.
yes.
I'll be out there laughing.
Yes.
We all will.
Oh, good. Fine.
Right.
Just keep the lungs clear.
Yeah, don't worry when your tie falls off.
Enjoy the good connection.
Dave.
Okay, whoops.
3 out of 4.
Have a nice dinner.
See you out there, champ. Remember, keep your left up.
Good luck. Zonk. So they left me there in the dressing room, the show about to start, with 90 long minutes before my entrance. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes. Gee, I'd like to be in his shoes now, I'll tell you. Boy, and I also envied my peers waiting out there, over 1,000 of them, with so little on their minds except to be entertained, which for some utterly perverse and ridiculous reason it now seemed I was going to try to do. And as I paced around, I kept thinking back on the advice of all my great tutors.
Hold the whip over the audience. You be the boss. Let them be the employee.
There's nothing worse than an insecure audience that senses that you're in trouble, you know, because they come in right away for the kill.
Just before I go on, George, I say to the audience, psychically, I love you.
Words important, each one spaced and separate. Imagery, see the picture of what you're telling.
Even if you don't have confidence in every joke, psych yourself out. Pretend that you do, okay?
You like a sneaky fella that tells funny lines and doesn't think they're funny himself.
Don't gild the lily. Don't be cute. Do it as best you can. You can't kid kidding.
I think if you just put your head right around the curtain, pull it back a little bit and say, hi.
You're on, Jake.
You're going to be completely on your own, and it could be fun, but I doubt it.
Roll the backstage. Center mic is hot. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, Caesar's Palace is proud to present, for the first time on any Las Vegas stage, a bright new comic. Please join us in welcoming Mr. George Plimpton.
You're awfully kind to stick around. I'm not at all surprised that so many of you are nervous out there, because after all, it's your first appearance before me. Howard Hughes. Now, there's a man with a lot on his mind. When he heard that I was going to be performing here on the great stage of Caesar's Palace, he went out and tried to sell the place. And let me tell you something, he doesn't even own this place. You know, it's been a great day. All these telegrams have been pouring in. Phone calls have been pouring in. Dean Martin came pouring in. In fact, I've got some telegrams which just poured in here. Dear George, I just wish I could be there. Signed, Jimmy Hoffa. Here's another one. Dear George, stop. Signed, Caesar's Palace. That sounds like a mistake to me. But here's another one. Dear George, that was no mistake. Signed, Caesar's Palace. And Phyllis Diller, sweet Phyllis Diller, she was terribly concerned about my ability to be funny. I tried to make her feel better by saying that I took to comedy like a duck takes to water. And she said, yes, but have you seen the water lately? But you know, even if I get into trouble up here... Boy, I wish I could find some water to get into. Some time ago, I was in this film with John Wayne, Rio Lobo. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do was when John Wayne said to me, now, kid, I want you to listen and listen good. And in the next scene, I want you to get over here to the right of me. And I want to tell you that getting to the right of John Wayne is not easy. And neither is imitating his voice. I suppose the most difficult thing I've ever tried is the circus. But you know, in that circus, we had this fat lady, this great fat lady. And she had a tattoo of the Chicago Fire on one kneecap. And on the other, she had a picture of the devil. And when she crossed her legs, it looked like hell. This microphone seems to drift to the right, too. I'm a great opera fancier. And Maria Callas was singing in Mexico City. And I'll tell you how good she is. She's so good that when she finished, 5,000 people got up and they cheered, and they gave her the ears and tail of the tenor. I played professional football with the Detroit Lions. And the first time, what do you do with that? First time I floated back. Well, I was going to survive. I never really got that one big laugh I'd hoped for, but there'd been some good moments. Right from the beginning, one small part of my mind had been standing apart, detached, evaluating how things were going, whether the jokes were catching them. That was how one thought of the audience, something to be caught. A gigantic fish, perhaps, out there in the darkness. And each joke was like a cast. And if the response was good, you could feel the great weight of it on the line, and you had them, hooked. And sometimes to the extent you could play with them, with an ad lib, which got them even more. What joy that was. But then just as quickly you could lose them. Like the Phyllis Diller joke, which had failed again, and suddenly that great weight would slip away, absolutely. And there was nothing on the line at all, just something shifting out there in the darkness. And holy smoke, you could feel the panic in your mind, just waiting to settle in. So that finally for me, it was such a relief to know that there were just 2 jokes left to tell in the routine, and then one, and it would be done. I can understand why some of you are nervous, but since you've already heard that, I will spare you a repeat. Thank you very much.
I told you once. I told you were taking the sleeves a little bit.
You were just enchanting. I really think you have a divine style.
You know, you were fine.
This is a pretty small little dressing room here, you know?
He says I'm all ready for this. Nothing like the formula.
No, your
setup.
timing was great.
Yes.
I really mean it. Slow, but well-deserved.
Kind of early Joel McRae.
Fetching, laconic quality.
All very heady stuff. The flattery, the champagne, the celebrities coming back. But my reporter's instinct told me not to take it too seriously. One had to keep everything in its proper perspective.
George.
I bet you like the Fifth Dimension more.
Yeah, you were really good. Super good material.
George, if you'd have come out this way, George, you put the cigar in your mouth.
In a moment, the final scenes of Plimpton. Did you hear the one about?
We have speed. Marker? That's the marker.
Okay, Ralph.
Yeah.
Same question.
Well, let's put it this way. Plimpton is a very refreshing personality, even in Las Vegas. But I think as a nightclub comic, he probably is a very good quarterback when he plays for Detroit.
Well, in the case of George Plimpton, I'm not going to tell him. I'm going to let him worry about it. Okay?
I would have to say that George Plimpton is the first of his kind. I don't know how else to describe it.
I don't know what those critics were saying, but I'll bet they were a lot tougher than my nice friends back there in the dressing room. And they should be, too, because this business of being funny in public is impossibly difficult. In fact, really surprisingly so, since humor is such a common commodity. I mean, we have 200 million people in this country, and I suppose most of us laugh 10 or 20 times a day, and we all like to think we can make other people laugh. And yet, at the top of the profession, they're just a handful, perhaps 30 or 35 comedians who have this marvelously rare gift. And as for the rest of us, well, we just have to keep keep trying. I mean, have you heard the one about the moose that came down the avenue?